What is the most evolutionary thing you can be doing right now? Are you going to serve the need of the time, or are you just going to enjoy all the awesome stuff that it has to offer? Welcome to the Vital Veda Show. Immerse in a shared experience with me of exploring exciting realms of holistic health and the rich, expansive field of consciousness of which underlies and encompasses everything. It is here that we explore the essence of what health and vitality truly is. Get ready to discover how to enliven your ultimate potential for health and to live a life in a frictionless flow while achieving more. You deserve to feel vitality. As a matter of fact, it is innate within you. Hello, this is Dylan Smith, your host, an Ayurvedic practitioner and educator. Today we've got a pretty awesome interview with someone I met in India, Conan Mischer, and he just has done so many bloody awesome things in his life. He's visited amazing mystics, healers, had these amazing experiences. I just had to share them with you. Had to record him and get him to tell his so many stories he has. But the bottom line of what we learn from this is, you know, what is the most evolutionary thing you can be doing right now? There is a need of the time that needs to be attended to. Are you a worthy candidate? Are you going to respond to this call from the universe? How much of your energy and time can you give to serving the community, economy, and society? Or is it best for you to just relax and enjoy life, go live in the mountains, go live in Nimbin, go live in a cave in the Himalayas and meditate full time? Maybe that is what's required for you. Maybe you need to establish that state of being before performing action. I would say most people know you need to perform action, you need to serve the world. But, you know, this is something that Conan has been in a bit of crossroads with. He's enjoyed, he's been nearly addicted to these experiences, particularly in India, extraordinary experiences. But when is it enough? When is it time to get into the city and get into the communities and really start using what you've learned? I recorded this with Conan in India, so as you get in India, there's a bit of beeping, a bit of drilling, the usual sounds you get living in an Indian city. Enjoy. So Conan, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background, how you got into spirituality, you can say.
Well, grew up on a farm in Oregon, went to college in Pittsburgh, studied electronics, electrical engineering, specialization in computer electronics, digital circuit design. Went to San Francisco, San Jose area, what's known as the Silicon Valley. Got a job there designing computer chips and made lots of money. Drove around in a yuppie car with pop-up headlights and ate in sushi bars, did all the yuppie things. And on the material level, it seemed like a great life, but it was very stressful. Everything in that industry, in the IT industry, it's very high pressure. Everything needs to be done yesterday type of an environment, and you're expected to work long hours. And it took its toll on me, even though I was, in my 20s at the time. I was starting to feel the effects of it in terms of my health. And so I started researching. First I tried the Western doctors, not knowing any better, and I soon realized that they know a lot about their speciality, but without knowing the whole and how the mind works connected with the body and the whole system, they're not going to be able to treat the chronic types of diseases.
What diseases? What were we experiencing?
Pains in the joints and some skin problems and just a number of stress-related problems. Yeah. And so I started, eventually I realized, okay, I need to research this and figure out how to deal with this my own in a more holistic way. And my father had already introduced me to more holistic type of thinking. I used to read from the writings of Edgar Cayce, who was this guy from earlier, about 100 years ago in the States, and he channeled information from I don't know, some higher intelligence, and a lot of it was about holistic health and herbal medicine, and then also the importance of meditation and so forth. So I already had some openness to these ideas, but I finally, when my own health started to suffer and my own peace of mind started to suffer, I finally got serious about pursuing those ideas. And so I became vegetarian, I started exercising, running, but then I pushed myself too much in my running, and I got joint problems as a result. And so I kept searching for alternatives and new ways. Came across a book by Andrew Weil, which was all about holistic herbal and medicine and meditation, and very much changed my life. I was buying the books and giving them out to everyone. And then I came across a book in a bookstore called Perfect Health by Dr. Deepak Chopra, and that really impressed me.
Yeah, that is like my number one book, I say, to introduce people to Ayurveda.
It's a great
and
introduction.
It was a big change in my life.
Was it?
Introducing me to it and making me want to pursue it as a career.
Yeah. It changed me. It introduced me to Ayurveda, and also it introduced me to transcendental meditation, and I had nice experiences with that, and learned some of the advanced techniques, the Siddhi program, and so forth. And then actually, within a year of learning that meditation technique, I became a teacher, started teaching others, and I was sort of a TM zealot. I was for many years. Because I had such wonderful results, such wonderful experiences.
Such an effective technique.
It is. And so I wanted to share it with everyone.
Great.
And I thought everyone needs to be practicing this. This is awesome. This is it, the panacea.
Yeah.
And I still, recommend it to everyone. But I've had some experiences since then which have led me to open my mind a little bit, broaden my awareness to the fact that, hey, some people have pretty incredible experiences of awakening through techniques that are not, literally the exact same technique as branded by Maharishi and TM movement. And So I think Maharishi even said, if it's effortless, it is effectively transcendental meditation. If you're experiencing peace and joy in your sadhana, in your practice, then you're transcending. You're going beyond the relative material level of life with your awareness and experiencing the inner peace and joy that is at the core of each of us, and who we all really are. So I encourage people to pursue whatever practice they've found which gives them that experience reliably, including to you.
Yeah.
So that was how I got started, and then adventures started.
Okay. And in the TM, there's one thing called Purusha and Mother Divine.
Right.
And this is basically, you want to talk about that? You were Purusha?
I was on Purusha for 4 years. That's
whereabouts?
I'm mostly in North Carolina in an ashram there, just men, and that's a celibate monk lifestyle. There were about 200 of us there, and we just did yoga, meditation, and this advanced yogic flying technique for about 8 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, for 4 years. So it was a very deep immersion into the self.
Maharishi created this program to enhance the collective consciousness.
Yeah. Individual and collective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's still going on, and there are Purushas in India and in the Smoky Mountains of the U.S.
I think in South Australia there's one as well.
Is there?
Yeah.
All over the place.
And has it decreased, or do you know if it's decreased or increased in numbers, the amount of...
I don't know. I might have decreased a little bit, but I know there are people still joining.
And what age were you in Purusha?
That would have been in my late 20s, I guess.
Okay. And why did you leave for 4 years?
Well, I was having wonderful experiences on Purusha, spiritual experiences, a lot of bliss. It wasn't all bliss, there was a lot of purification as well, but some very blissful experiences. And my first trip to India was while I was on Purusha. Maharishi sent me here to teach transcendental meditation to Indians. They don't appreciate their own culture, but if it comes from a Westerner, then they, it must be valuable. But it's their own, Vedic culture that I'm bringing back to them. Yeah. Maharishi's a genius in that, understanding that mentality. Yeah. But, so eventually I was having these wonderful experiences, but eventually I started to feel like maybe I wasn't as integrated with the material level of life, the relative. Maharishi talks about in terms of the absolute and the relative. Absolute is the transcendental being, which is non-changing.
That unified field of consciousness, right? And where everything comes from.
Right. The witness, the silent witness within, Shiva. And then the other phase of the universe is the relative, which is always changing. And the values in the relative are relative to other values, and relative to time and space and so forth. So the only thing constant in the relative phase of life is change. Exactly. So I guess there maybe was some concern that I wasn't going to be able to function or wasn't able to function because I was sort of transcendental. My consciousness was there, and my body was not. Body exists within the relative material phase of life. So my body was not as strong as it used to be. My mind was not as strong as it used to be. I wasn't able to focus on details like when I was a computer engineer. I was very good at focusing on details and problem solving. But I seem to have lost that ability due to lack of exercising it, lack of focusing on details and material level. So I felt that I should leave Purusha and get more integrated. And there were some things I could do and did do on Purusha to try to achieve more integration, even on the program, like longer sets of yoga asanas.
And less meditation.
And less meditation. Yeah, but you didn't really have an option to do less meditation because it's a set program, at least not at that time. So I was not really feeling integrated. That was one of the main reasons. Also, along with that sense of being integrated is a sense of financial stability. That was starting to concern me more.
Yeah. Because generally we have two ways of living. One is the householder, who's definitely integrated and doing their work very much in the relative. And then there is the recluse, or we call it sannyasi, where you denounce all attachments. And obviously you're not complete sannyasi on Purusha, because still you have, there's some Indians, you're close to it, but there's some Indians here who have really denounced a lot of possessions. You still eat food, have nice beds and things. But yeah, it's interesting because there's definitely a lot of sannyasis in India, and it's interesting whose dharma it is. How relevant is it for us Westerners who have the knowledge of what is the need of the time right now? How beneficial it is to go and meditate full time away from everyone, or should we be, like you were doing before, teaching meditation, or the earth needs radical action right now, and people like you to spread the knowledge, and people like Purushas who maybe they're not capable of it. Maybe they're better off meditating in a cave. But it's interesting, which path, and I don't know how relevant it is for people to be meditating full time.
Yeah, I think people are guided from within which path is appropriate and for them, for their love, for their current state. And when I was on Purusha, that was the perfect thing for me.
Yeah.
I needed to like decompress from that intense high focus of the computer engineering world. I needed to like go to the other extreme and just be transcendental, abstract for a few years to swing the other way and balance things out. And then the pendulum has swung to both extremes, and now it's like settling down to an integrated middle ground.
Yeah.
I think, but definitely the value to the world as a whole is not just staying in the transcendental abstract, but bringing heaven back to earth, experiencing the transcendental being, the self of all beings. But then after having experienced it, come out into the material level of life and act and integrate. So you bring heaven with you as you come out and bring it onto earth. Yeah. And that's how heaven descends onto earth, through us individually experiencing heaven and then coming back to earth and bringing heaven with us. This is more the language of A Course in Miracles, which I got into later and really transformed me in a major way.
Great, we'll speak about that soon. But that's like the Vedic epitome, really, is Yogastha Kuru Kamani.
Yes.
Which is, I think, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita verse. I don't know which verse. And established in being, perform action.
Right.
First established in being, then performing action.
Exactly. And that's how the integration happens.
Yeah. And anyone who, whatever technique, as long as you're establishing yourself in being, and go ahead and perform the action. And it might take 6 years to do that.
Right. And there's like different levels within it. Established in being might mean just meditate 20 minutes and then perform action. Or it might mean go on Purusha or some kind of reclusive program for 4 years and then go dive into dynamic activity.
So how was your action when you got back into the relative?
It took me some time to readjust to the relative. At first I was not very able to focus on the details, but because I'd spent so long on but now it's getting much more integrated.
It's interesting because here at the Dr. Raja Clinic in Hyderabad, it's the only place I've met Purushas. Definitely haven't met them otherwise, but it's interesting seeing them all. Some you can see have challenges integrating. I'd say most, but then I've also met a few who are really amazing people, and I'm surprised that they were Purusha. One man especially, I think he planned to go there for a year, and he was a professional athlete from New Zealand and learned TM and planned to go for a year and ended up staying for 6 years. And he's now living in LA, runs this company called New Mavericks, and it's basically, it's like business consulting, Vedic business consulting. So he consults high-end CEOs with a Vedic worldview on how to approach business.
Is that Shane?
Ramon.
Oh, Ramon?
Ramon
Newman.
Yeah.
Oh, he changed his name. Yeah, his last name is Newman. He was a good friend of mine on Purusha.
Oh, yeah. He was in the same...
same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Paulo was there as well? Paulo D'Angelo?
Yes. They were both there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So they're business partners in this.
Yeah. I heard they moved to and started that.
But yeah, okay, cool. And
So integration.
Back.
So I ended up getting a job in Switzerland, doing computer engineering again, which is a beautiful place to be. Moved through some karmic experiences there, and then I decided to come to India, and I've had a little bit of remnants of the joint pains still from when I was stressed out and some injuries. They never quite fully healed, and so I was searching for, not only healing of physical body, but also healing of the mind and spiritual growth and peace of mind and that inner bliss. So I came to India in search of those things, and had a lot of adventures in India. I lived here for 2 years. Had to leave every 6 months to renew my visa, but just went across the border to Nepal.
What age were you?
That was like 30s, early 30s or something like that. So one thing I did in search of healing, I went to visit some Indians who had given me what they call, in the Tia movement, they call it Vedic vibration technology, I think, where they're basically using mantras on a soft level, and then they blow the energy of the mantras into the area of the body that needs healing or balancing. And I had
Blow with their mouth?
Yeah. They have to be in a settled state, basically on the edge of the transcendent, or established in the transcendent, as they're thinking the mantra and blowing it in there. But I really felt quite a powerful effect from that, and I learned where this Indian guy was living, and he was actually here in Hyderabad. So I came and visited him here in India, and I asked if he could give me more treatments. He said, no, that worked because it had Maharishi's blessings, but I can't do it on my own independently.
I've heard of Vedic vibrations with the pulse. My teachers and just to paint a picture, we're here at the Hyderabad clinic, Dr. Raju's, and the Father Raju especially, who passed away 2 years ago, he was very good with the Vedic vibrations and healed through the pulse.
Oh, really?
He would treat people, and so I haven't heard of the blowing though. It's interesting, and it's fascinating this subtle treatments, and especially the Raju family, like they are so subtle with mantras, which primordial sounds, which are vibrating. Definitely how measurable by science and technology. I think it's still measurable, but obviously different layers. But the subtle is just so powerful. It creates a capacity for such effective and high performance, and that's where all the power is, right? The subtle.
Is. Yeah.
So it's interesting. And even especially with the Rajus, the medicines and the treatments which are involving these mantras, these primordial sounds. I see people who aren't spiritual and who haven't had many experiences with expanded levels of consciousness, them still get great effects from it. For example, the banana treatment, which is a very subtle therapy for women's health. I see people who just, when Dr. Raj comes to Australia, we get as many ladies to do it as possible because it's such a great treatment and an opportunity, and people come to it who have never meditated before, and they don't really believe, or they're not really know much, which is a good thing as well. And they just get these profound effects, profound healings and changes, which is amazing. The power of the subtle.
It is. Maharishi always gave an example of how much more powerful it is to work at the atomic level than at the molecular level. Atomic energy versus chemical energy, burning things up, like coal. Atomic energy gets so much more power. So the subtler, smaller scales of time and distance is where the power is.
Get subtle. Sukshma. I love it. Sukshma is the Sanskrit word for subtle. It's in Sanskrit. The whole Sanskrit language is onomatopoeia.
Yes, it is.
It's like the child of nature. The language, the child of nature, and it's imitating what nature is intending to say.
Right.
So subtle, sukshma.
I love it. Okay. So that was one of my first experiences. I also went to see these palm leaf readers, Nadi readers, had some adventures with them.
I've heard good things about them.
But
there's many who claim to be Nadi palm leaf readers, but only
I have heard not all are genuine. I had mixed results. They certainly seem to know my past quite well. The predictions about the future were kind of generally correct, but some of the specifics were not as detailed as I...
Can you give a quick brief of what would happen in a palm leaf reading section?
Well, you go there and they take your thumbprint and they use that to look up your palm leaf, which was, supposedly written by a rishi who lived thousands of years ago and who foresaw your coming at this time to pick up your Jyotish reading, your astrological reading. And so they wrote it down on a palm leaf, and if the house that keeps these palm leaves can find your leaf, then you can receive your reading. And so I went to a number of different ones.
Is that because they couldn't find your leaf?
No, they found my leaf.
They all found your leaf.
Yeah. I was just curious to see if they would see the same thing, and it wasn't 100% the same. There were some differences, but they recommended a lot of remedial actions, like go to this temple, go to this Durga temple, give lemons to Durga Devi, do this parikrama, walking around, go to this sacred waterfall in Kutralam and take a bath in the waterfall. And go to this Ayurvedic doctor and take his medicines, and so I did everything, absolutely everything.
Good travel agent.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. But it's hard to say how much beneficial effect all that had. I didn't feel any worse from doing it. But I ended up settling. I ended up going to. While I was actually, one of my motivations for coming to India, I had already learned to read Sanskrit, like to make the sounds. I don't understand all the words, but I could read the Devanagari script and make the sounds, and I had wonderful experiences just reading the sounds, which is something Maharishi has always encouraged people to do, because he says the main value of Sanskrit is in the sound, the vibrational value, not the meaning. And so I came to India with the idea that I was going to go to one of these villages where they speak Sanskrit as their primary language, and I was just going to immerse myself in Sanskrit and learn to speak Sanskrit. But then when I was in Chennai exploring the palm leaf reading thing, I saw on the TV, the Maharishi channel came on, and they started talking about this large group of Vedic pundits coming together in the middle of India, in what he called the Brahmasthan, the center point of India. And they were doing daily Rudrabhishek performances in like 1,000 or more, 2,000 pundits doing it together. And I thought, I've attended those performances before. I can't imagine what it would be like if there was 1,000 of them doing it together. So I said, I'm going there. And so I changed my plans and went there instead. And they didn't speak Sanskrit there in that village. At that time, there were no Western facilities at the ashram where they were doing it. So I rented a room from a local Indian family, which was a blessing because the family didn't speak any English. So I was forced to learn Hindi. And I had a little book, Teach Yourself Hindi was the name of it. And I just studied that and conversed with my family. I call them my Indian family, and friends. Of course, they would love to come and speak with a Westerner. And I ended up learning to speak fairly well in Hindi. And that has served me since then, traveling around India. But also I was there in that village because I was close enough that I could feel the effects of the nearby large-scale Rudrabhishek yajnas that were going on every day. So I was enjoying the feeling of that, and also doing a lot of yoga asanas, which were very integrating for me. One of the reasons I left Purusha was for more integration. So I was spending maybe 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon doing yoga asanas, and that was incredibly healing for me. That was physically the most healing period of my life, probably. Really got a lot more flexible.
Right. So a good tool for people who are feeling too much space, too much vata. Maybe we call them airy-fairy and need a ground.
La-la-landers.
That's because, why is that? Because stress is stored in the body and the asanas release.
And asanas bring your attention to the location in the body on the physical level where the release is needed. And that just bringing your attention to the body integrates the consciousness with the physical.
Yeah, great. And yoga asanas, by the way, yoga means unity. So it doesn't mean excessively straining in a yoga class and huffing and puffing.
Right.
It means in union with your mind and body,
Right.
effortless yoga.
Yes.
Called the huffing and puffing and the hot yoga and all this. This is more exercise.
Yeah.
Yoga is different. So,
And exercise has its value too,
Yeah.
but it's not really what yoga is all about.
Yeah.
Yoga is about you doing a set of yoga asanas should feel a lot like sitting and meditating.
yeah,
You should be transcendent
yeah.
and experiencing inner peace and inner joy.
And with that, you will get what exercise is designed to do, which is increase blood flow, increase flexibility, increase strength.
Yeah.
You get all those without heart beating, sweating,
Mhm.
excessively flexing, and all
Right.
these.
Strain, yeah. Yeah. So I did a lot of yoga. I did a lot of Sanskrit recitation. Made friends with some of the pundits and learned more about Sanskrit recitation and refined
Beautiful.
my pronunciation and so forth. And that was my life for a year there. Then
Little recluse.
a little bit
lifestyle.
reclusive. Yeah. I still considered myself a brahmachari at the time. But yeah.
Yeah. Brahmachari is.
Is a celibate lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my second summer in India, I decided there's no way I'm going to spend another summer in India in the lowlands because it was just brutally hot. So I went north up to the Himalayas and up to Badrinath, actually Jyotirmath, and then Badrinath when it was warm enough.
Jyotirmath and Badrinath in Uttarakhand state, and it's where Conan and I's guru's guru,
Right.
Swami Brahmananda Saraswati, one of the Shankaracharya, the king of the yogis, was Jyotirmath. And still, the lineage of the Shankaracharya has been passing on, and they still stay there.
Yes.
And near there is a temple called Badrinath, a Vishnu temple, a very powerful temple in the Himalayas, which I recommend everyone to go. And you were there.
I was there. Yeah, and I wanted to stay there, so I wanted to be away from people, so I could just focus on my sadhana, my spiritual practices, yoga and meditation, and Sanskrit recitation. So I bought a tent, and because there were no caves. I wanted a cave, but I didn't see any caves, so I made my own cave with a tent. And I bought a little gas stove and a little cot, and I parked it out there in the valley above Badrinath, and cooked my own food.
How far up from the temple or the city? Not a city.
It was about a half an hour's walk up the valley. Yeah. It was near. There's a waterfall, about a 20-meter high waterfall called Indradhara, and I would go take a morning shower in that 20-meter high waterfall. And
it's different to the Saraswati River, right?
Yeah, I did hike up to where the Saraswati supposedly goes underground. Starting point of the Saraswati goes underground. So a lot of tourists go there as well. It's in that same valley, and that's what I found out. I went there to be, away from all the people because there's so many people, no matter where you go in India. So I camped out there thinking, well, now I'm alone, I can be reclusive. And then I found out, well, this is a very popular tourist place. There's tourists hiking through here all the time, and they would stop at my tent and knock on the door. Hi, and want to talk to me. I'd open my eyes out of my meditation. It's like, what? What do you want?
I'm sure many Indians were very impressed to see you Western camping there.
I guess. Yeah. It was fun. Anyway, then that was only a couple months because you can't stay in Badrinath outside of the hottest months of the year.
Sure.
But then I went back to just outside of Joshimath, which is where Jyotirmath, Shankaracharya seat is, and I found a place on one of the branches of the Ganga. There's a natural hot springs there, so I rented a little room from a family there near this natural hot springs, which was also near this tributary to the Ganges, and I was close enough I could walk down to the Ganges in the morning, and have my morning bath. And at that point, it was far enough north that basically the water was flowing straight out of the glacier. So the only reason the water wasn't frozen where I was bathing is because it was moving fast. So when I took my morning bath,
Wow.
I was alert. I found a place, a rock that was right next to a deep hole in the river, and I would dive off this rock headfirst into the Ganges, and it would clear my mind of all thoughts except one: get me out. The body would just say, "Get me out of here," and I would be washed about, 10, 15 meters downstream before I could swim back to shore because it was such a fast-moving current. And I would do that, and then I would say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad," and I'd run up again to my rock and dive in again, wash downstream again. I'd do that about 5 times, and then after about 5 times, I started walking back upstream, and I would notice that I couldn't walk straight anymore because the water was so cold. And I thought, maybe it's not safe to do this anymore. So then I would head over to the natural hot springs, which was actually right on the banks of the river. It was flowing into the river, and I would bathe there, and I would warm up.
Beautiful.
I would get the balance that way, with extreme cold, extreme hot. It was fun, adventure. I was desperate to wake up. I was feeling tired and unable to focus still, not integrated. So that was one of the reasons I was motivated to dive into the ice-cold Ganges. And it certainly helped me feel alert there for a while. Eventually, it was Christmas time or something. I thought it'd be nice to go and visit the family. I haven't seen them for a couple of years. And somehow I found myself back down in the south of India in Tiruvannamalai, which is there's a sacred mountain there, which is supposedly a Shiva lingam in itself. It's a naturally formed Shiva lingam in the form of this mountain. And it's recommended to do a parikrama, a walk around that mountain in a clockwise direction on a full moon night, with bare feet, which I did. And there was a great saint there called Ramana Maharshi, and I went to meditate in the room where he used to give his satsangs, his lectures, and I really felt his presence there. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to meditate if anyone's in Tiruvannamalai.
Near Chennai.
It's
3-hour drive.
3-hour drive, maybe. Yeah, it's a little ways away, but it's in Tamil Nadu. And I kind of, there's a lot of Westerners there. Some of them are a little bit hippie-ish. More into hippie things than into serious sadhana, maybe. I don't know. A lot of people there try to follow the Ramana Maharshi tradition, which is self-inquiry, constantly asking, who am I? And then denying, I am not that, I am not that kind of kind of like the dialectic of, is that Greek guy, Aristotle, or Plato, one of those guys. They have this dialectic technique for self-discovery, which is kind of intellectually based.
Yeah, it sounds a bit quite intellectual.
Yeah. And for some people, maybe it
experience
works.
It might be a quicker way.
Maybe. If they have the experience of inner peace and joy, then that's what you're after. But it wasn't attractive to me. It didn't feel like my path. And also, I got a little bit turned off by all the false sadhus, the false beggars, taking advantage of all the tourists around there. But
none of these guys are real. I don't know if you call them sadhus. If they're begging, they shouldn't beg.
You're right.
They can denounce all the possessions, but people will give them, donate. Nature will support them to receive everything they should. If they beg, they're not legit.
That's what I would say too. Anyway, ended up maybe the reason I needed to go to Tiruvannamalai was to meet a man, an Australian man actually, who was involved in the Tia movement for many years, had been around Maharishi, and I immediately resonated with him. We had rooms right next to each other in this ashram we were both staying in, and as if coincidentally, nothing happens by accident. So I meet this guy, and he starts telling me about two things. One was a great avatar of Mother Divine, a saint in Kerala named Amma. In the West, she's known sometimes as Amachi or Amritanandamayi, Mata Amritanandamayi, and
in the West, she's known as the Hugging Saint.
The Hugging Saint, also, yeah. And so I was persuaded to go and visit her before I left India, and was very happy I did. Had a wonderful experience. The first time I got within 10 meters of her, 6 or 7 meters of her, I just felt her auric field, the purity of her being just surrounding
Beautiful.
her. And it was just like stepping into a spiritual jacuzzi. It was amazing.
I love that, spiritual jacuzzi.
It was amazing. And I just, you get into a jacuzzi and you don't want to leave. It's so relaxing and it's fulfilling. And that's the way I felt whenever I got near her. And I actually became quite, you could almost say it, quite the devotee of her for quite some time. I started hanging out there at her ashram for a few months on later trips to India, and started, one of the main techniques that she promotes is the recitation of the 1,000 names of Lalita, Mother Divine, form of Mother Divine. And I was already into Sanskrit recitation, so that was a natural for me. And so I started doing that and did that regularly every day for 4 years.
Wow.
Never missed a day. And it was very powerful. I couldn't even do the whole recitation in one sitting at first. It took me 4 hours because I'd have to take a break to do some asanas or something to, because my mind would go off on some tangent. It was so purifying. My body would start twitching. Just amazing.
Having other thoughts of things?
Yeah, other thoughts of things and strong emotions coming up, and just unable to focus on the mantras because it was so purifying. Amazing.
And it's in line because this Sanskrit is the language of nature, or more so the child of the language of nature. It tries to imitate the sound of nature.
Right.
So, and it's within us, so it enlivens these things in the physiology. So whether it's chanting the names of the Mother Divine, you're enlivening the Mother Divine within you. And that's like reconstructing your physiology on the subtle layer as well.
Realigning the mind and the body to the perfect blueprint of creation, which is given in the Vedas.
Right.
Perfect pattern, after which everything in the universe is patterned. So anyway, that had a profound influence on me. But the other thing my friend that I met in Tiruvannamalai, the other thing he introduced me to was A Course in Miracles, which is a book. And at first I thought, a book? How's that going to help, give me some kind of spiritual experiences? I've read lots of books. I've never had any spiritual experiences from reading a book. But he told me about this place in Wisconsin, in the USA, of all places, where there was a realized master and teaching awakening through the use of this Course in Miracles book. And turns out my aunt, my grandmother's sister, my great aunt, had already told me about this place years before, as if coincidentally, because she went there and was living there. She was a member of this community. And this guy that I met in Tiruvannamalai, he knew my aunt, my great aunt, as if coincidentally. So he told me about it, and I was kind of interested at first, but not that interested. But then I went back to Oregon and built myself a small cabin I was going to live in on my father's property because I needed space away from my father. So I built this little cabin, and then at some point he called because he was there in Wisconsin, my Australian friend, and he said, "I'm here, are you going to come visit?" And at that point nothing was flowing in my life, and I said, okay, I've got to try something different. So I went for a month, and I started participating in their, what they call their group light sessions, and which is like standing around in an active form of meditation, and I really felt a lot of Kundalini energy moving, just as my friend had told me he felt. And like really intense sensations in the physiology. And it was amazing. And it was enlivening and awakening. And it was boundary breaking for me to experience something like that through a completely different set of techniques and different thought system. At first it seemed like a different thought system because it uses a different vernacular, it uses a different language, different set of terminology. But later on I was able to correlate the teachings of A Course in Miracles with the Vedic teachings that I was already familiar with. And I realized that they're basically teaching the same eternal truth that every great master has ever taught throughout time. It's just that it's formulated in a language that's acceptable to the Western Christian-oriented mind, and it's not going to scare them away like a lot of these Hindu-sounding terminology would do. So it's when people ask me what is A Course in Miracles, I tell them it's Vedanta. It's non-dual Advaita Vedanta, but formulated in a language that's acceptable to the Western mind, especially minds with a Christian background, because it's actually written by Jesus Christ, and through the hand of someone who heard his voice and who wouldn't be left alone until she wrote it all down. So I ended up spending 5 years there in Wisconsin in this Course in Miracles community and having amazing experiences, and having a lot of boundaries broken. A lot of the concepts that I had held fast to, I was able to release, and just to get into a state where I really don't know what concept is useful for whom at what time. I have no way. It definitely broke me out of my TM zealot mode, where I thought this is the technique, everyone should be practicing this, and nothing else can be as good as this. And I needed that. And there are people doing TM who never get into any other practice, and they're not zealous about it, and they may not need to be exposed to something else because they don't need to be broken out of their rigid boundaries. They're just fine.
Yeah.
So, but I needed to because I was overly attached to many of my concepts of superior.
Yeah. As you said, all these teachings, all these schools of thoughts, they're all essentially the same, just different ways of delivering the knowledge, and all paths lead to the same thing.
In fact, there's one beautiful line in A Course in Miracles where it says, a universal philosophy is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary.
Right.
And how we get to that experience, it's going to be according to your own cultural background, the time in which you're born, family, DNA, mentality and all that. But the experience is one, no matter which path you take to get there. So that was the Course in Miracles period.
And they say even just with Jesus, he's like a Brahmin or something. No? Or he's a Vedic scholar. Or
absolutely.
So many things he said that correlate with the Vedas.
Absolutely, yeah. It's now clear, especially with the clarifications that the Course in Miracles offered on the Bible, on interpretations of the Bible and many common misinterpretations of the Bible.
Yeah.
With that understanding of the true teachings of Jesus, now I see that he really was a Vedic master.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and with, I guess, other religions, there's a lot of misunderstandings and misinterpretations.
Yes.
Like, especially with Jesus, the fact that he suffered, like who says he suffered when he was pinned, Who thinks a
he was crucified.
Tiny little pin on a little hand on a little planet
Right.
can cause suffering, you know. It's
Ma-
not that you don't know the state of his consciousness. It was
Exactly.
misinterpreted by the people who wrote
Yeah.
that.
Maharishi said that
Mm.
someone asked him about Jesus and said, well, how, Jesus died and suffered for our sins, and Maharishi interrupted and said, no. Well, Jesus didn't suffer. And you think, what do you mean Jesus didn't suffer? He was crucified. How could he not have suffered? And Maharishi said, if I want to respect him as a savior, then I cannot consider that he suffered.
Mm.
Because Maharishi knew that Jesus' consciousness was far beyond
Yeah.
the body. Jesus knew he was the Christ, the Son of God, who was created in the image of God. Meaning, and God, of course, is far beyond the physical level. God is eternal, and he creates like himself, so he created a Son who is also eternal. And nothing physical is eternal. It's always changing, the relative phase of life. So therefore, the Son of God must also be non-physical like his Father. So the Son of God, the Christ, must be non-physical.
A wincing body does not mean the consciousness is suffering.
Right.
And he was definitely in a high state of consciousness.
Definitely.
Perhaps bewildered, a bit bewildering. So maybe that's, why it came.
Yeah.
He was doing miracles in, this age, which is Kali Yuga, the age of ignorance, performing miracles out there. Maybe that was a bit bewildering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The physical aspect, no doubt, of Jesus, you could say suffered, but he knew he was not that.
Yeah, and that's really telling the consciousness about the people who wrote that. That's
Exactly.
the state of consciousness of the people that wrote that. So
Exactly. Knowledge, Maharishi always says, knowledge is structured in consciousness. So what we're aware of when we perceive something depends more on our consciousness than what we're perceiving.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's a good tool for people to know when they get into arguments or fights with people, or someone unstresses on you. Don't take it personally. It's just a report of their state of consciousness. You can say, thank you for reporting your state of consciousness.
Yes, letting me know how you feel.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you can't say that to them. No.
Say it in a different way.
Right. There's also a line in the Course in Miracles that says, projection makes perception. Perception is not a fact. It's a result of what we project.
What else has come on your path?
Then, what happened after that? Then I started coming back to India for like 6 months at a time, spending a lot of time with Amma, and also Mother Meera, whom I've told you about, whom I'm going to see in a few weeks. I met her actually while I was working in Switzerland. I went up to Germany, and that's where she lives, and visited her for the first time, and my life was just transformed. And I actually started making trips to India just to see her, because you can see her in Germany, but you have to wait for a month before you can see her again, and you can only see her for like 2 or 3 days, and then you have to wait another month. But here in India, you can see her for like a week or two every day.
So there's many more people in Germany.
Yeah, like hundreds of people come to see her in Germany. Yeah, every weekend.
And she gives darshan.
Each one individually.
And darshan comes from the root drishti, which means to see, and it's basically when someone of a higher state of consciousness, or doesn't have to be someone, it can be like an idol or something, when they see you. And I used to think, and people commonly think, darshan means when you see the God, but it's really when the God sees you, and then they elevate you to their state of consciousness. And that's why these darshans, whether the murti, which is the statue of these temples, whether they see you, or where a saint like Mother Meera or like Amma see you, they bring you to their high state of consciousness, and that's why you get this euphoric, unbelievable feeling and experience, which makes people like you keep wanting to see them again and again, and people like me, I get this very much so in some temples which I keep going to. And it's interesting, this concept, how it's great, it's euphoric, it's big blessings, but how much do we need this? How much should we establish our own state of being and be content with what we have and not need these. I don't want to say external because it's still us, but I should be able to tap into it all the time.
Yes, yes. And I'm very glad you brought up that point, because this is the one thing that came to me to speak about. Like if I were to summarize all my
life experience,
the pearl of wisdom, the biggest pearl of wisdom that I've gained from all my life experiences, it's that these experiences of darshan or seeing a healer, like I went to see. There's a famous healer in Brazil called John of God. He's not far north of Brasilia in Brazil, and I flew all the way down there to see him. And I had genuine healing experiences. I could feel, he performed psychic surgery and other kinds of surgery, and I could feel there was definitely energy moving, and it was very intense. So I knew something good was happening, and yet all my problems didn't just go away. And also I shared with you my experience in the Philippines, where I went to see these psychic surgeons where they actually reach inside your body with their hands and pull things out, and lots of blood flows and nasty things are pulled out of your body. And I saw incredible things happen there, not only with my own body but other people I was with.
You saw them performing the psychic surgery
on other people, and sometimes this one large Japanese man, he pulled out some big tumor-like thing, like the size of a softball or something. I was like, amazing. Whoa, where did that come? It was just amazing.
I'm going to post a recount on my website that Conan did of his experience in the Philippines of psychic surgery. It's a really beautiful recount. And in fact, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he said to my teacher Tom Knowles, he said, go explore what nature is doing there in the Philippines, and he sent some people to go explore it.
Yes.
And it's
well, and as I told in my story that I wrote up for you, I feel it was quite genuine, not because of what I saw, but because of what I felt, the shift that I felt in my consciousness. Because visual things, pulling blood and guts out of someone's body, that can be faked if you're really good at sleight of hand type things. You can fake that. And I think I've heard that there are people who do fake it. And so beware of those. But what I felt in the healers that I went to see there, I felt energy movement. I've done enough meditation. I can tell when there's an energy shift happening. And I also felt a clear difference in the quality of my meditations after the surgery. Something had shifted. It was undeniable. And that's what convinced me that it was genuine, not what I saw visually, but the shift that I felt in my consciousness. And yet, at the same time, as I mentioned in the story, I concluded after my experiences there that, yes, it shifted something, it was helpful, and yet it didn't necessarily shift my fundamental way of thinking, my fundamental style of thinking, in a way that would prevent the problems from coming back. And if you don't shift your fundamental style of thinking, then the problems will remanifest, even if they get cleaned out by some healer or psychic surgeon or John of God or even if you go to some amazing temple and receive a blast of Shakti and bliss, you feel great for a minute, but if it doesn't, if your fundamental pattern of thought doesn't change, you'll fall back into the same diseases or relationship problems or whatever you were experiencing before.
How influential is our conditioning? How much can we transcend that and dust that off?
Right. So then the question comes up, which you were just asking, what is the value in going to a temple, or what is the value in going to do panchakarma? You feel great. I just completed 46 days of panchakarma. I feel clean and light and flexible in my body and energetic and wonderful. But yet, having done panchakarma before, I know that the effects, the good feeling eventually begins to decline after some time. And so what was the benefit of doing it? And I've come to the conclusion that it's the main benefit of doing panchakarma or going to some saint or going to some temple. Or
Panchakarma, by the way, is like an Ayurvedic detox and rejuvenation program.
Yeah.
And we can, take herbs, do the daily routines, do the diet and everything. But if you really want to change the physiology at a deep level and go to the more intense Ayurvedic treatments, you do an in-residence panchakarma.
Right, which is wonderful. Highly recommended. And Krishna Raja the whole Raja family is amazing in their diagnostic abilities. And so what is the value then in doing all of these special techniques or darshans or seeing these healers? And I've concluded that the main value is to give us a glimpse of what it's possible to feel like. You have one of these, because after you see a good healer, you do panchakarma or see a saint or something like that, you feel good afterwards. And in fact, I would even say you feel normal. You feel, oh, this is how I should feel. This is normal. And then you're reminded, in my case, you're reminded that it's possible to feel normal, to feel just naturally content and joyful and peaceful inside, not searching for that outside of yourself, and able to and feel that source of all love and joy within yourself, so you're free to extend it to others, not trying to get some kind of fulfillment from others. So you have a glimpse of it. It gives you a glimpse, and that reminds you what it's like to be normal and natural, and that inspires you, in my case at least, to strive once again for that state, and which means inspires me to be regular in my sadhana, my yoga, my meditation, my recitation, all those things that I already know how to do that help restore me to that state of normalcy.
And it's reminding the physiology, obviously, and not just panchakarma, but panchakarma is more physical. It's definitely also on the mind level and the consciousness, but it's it's like maintenance for our body. It's recommended to do panchakarma once a year, approximately for everyone. Everyone's different, but mainly once a year. And that's just to keep regularly detoxing the body and reminding. We call it smriti, is enhancing the cellular memory of perfect health, which is within all of us. We just have to enliven it, and it's just regular reminding the body that it's there. And I guess it is a big process to be able to establish that state where you don't need so much reminding, you don't need darshans, you don't need to do so much sadhana. Really, that's high state, that's unity consciousness, right? You don't need to meditate. Even lower states, you don't need to meditate anymore. You're in that state 24/7.
Exactly.
So it's reminding. It's good maintenance.
And also, I think the reminder value is there, but also each panchakarma has a cumulative effect as well. Each darshan, I think, does add towards the total purity. So it's like doing a sadhana. Each time you do a practice of yoga or meditation or Sanskrit recitation, it also has a cumulative beneficial effect. So, I would even say it's the same reason that we do our daily practice is the same reason we go to a temple or get darshan from a saint or whatever. It's another form of sadhana, and it all has a cumulative effect. It's just that some of these things have a more powerful, noticeable effect of restoring normalcy to the mind and body, and that reminds us more powerfully.
Great. And I'm going to post on the show notes all these, panchakarma and all these saints and places Conan has been. You can learn more about that. And now, what about right now? What is where are you at life now? You've had all these recluse, you've had quite a lot of recluse experiences for the average American man. Many years being, what are you up to now? What do you feel on that balance?
I'm obviously still doing things like panchakarma. I'm here now doing it. I'm going to go see Mother Mira in a few weeks. I'm still doing those things, but I'm also putting more attention. In my individual path, I feel called to place a little more attention on on the integration into the material level. So I'm working on a computer program, writing a computer program that's going to trade in the futures market and hopefully make billions and billions of dollars so I can fund some projects that will transform this world in a profound way.
Wonderful.
I walk around India and I think, when I become a billionaire, I'm going to install a functional waste disposal system.
Great.
So that, there's not waste. I'm going to replace all of these 2-cycle engine auto rickshaws which spew this toxic gas. I'm going to replace them all with electric auto rickshaws. I'm going to do all this.
Yeah, you get a lot of those things. I get that too. Walk around India. If I was a billionaire, I would do this. I would build this.
I'm going to take. There's a technology for desalinating seawater using solar power, and solar power is usually readily available in places where there's a shortage of water. So it's a natural, right? Why wouldn't you use solar power to desalinate seawater, purify seawater, so it can be used for irrigating crops and for drinking water and so forth? So there's this technology, and I want to make that available in countries where there's water shortages. So many projects I have in mind when I become a billionaire.
Yeah, good. Okay, so a lot of establishing being and still continuing to do it, and a lot of good action in mind to be performed.
Yes.
Performing now and in the process. So, great.
And I'm still doing more, I'm still on my healing journey as well, my mind and body. Yeah. I've found, along the way, I learned how to take my own pulse in the Ayurvedic style. It's, for me, taking my pulse for a long time is a meditative experience. It immediately connects my consciousness to my physiology, my mind to my body, and guides my attention to the areas in the body where it needs to be for healing that area. And if I do that for hours at a time, then I will start to move through layers. Like my attention will go to one area of my body, and then I'll just embrace whatever I'm feeling there, no matter how I might initially label it. I might initially call it pain or something. I think, wait, as it says in A Course in Miracles, pain is just a wrong perspective. It's really just energy movement. I don't have to perceive it as pain. I can see it as healing. So I'll take some time, take some deep breaths, and just embrace it, allow it to be whatever it is without judging it, without resisting it. And it moves. And once it moves, then the next layer that was hidden beneath that layer of stress becomes revealed. And it might be in a completely different area of the physiology. It might start out, for me, it's often in the left hip, which is where an old injury is. It might start there, and then when that releases, I might feel it in the chest or in the neck. And then I'd move through those, and I might feel it in the bottom of my right foot, in the bottom of my left foot. And it keeps moving around, and it doesn't matter where it is. I just apply the same principle. Just whatever I feel, embrace that, love that. Don't resist it. Just embrace it and breathe and let it move through. Yeah. And so I will spend some time, long periods of time, just doing that in the next few years, and really.
And I'll post in the notes how to take your own pulse. It's great, as Conan said, it's a great tool to put yourself back into your body, especially for people who are experiencing anxiety or panic attacks. One of the best things you can do is feel your pulse and just grounds you completely and brings you to the present moment.
Amazing, powerful. Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
And Sanskrit, I haven't given up on Sanskrit.
Yeah.
I still want to learn the grammar and vocabulary of Sanskrit, and I want to learn how to perform full-blown Vedic yajnas.
Yeah, great. Wow.
Including Rudrabhishek and Durga Saptashi. I'm a big fan of Sanskrit recitation.
So am I. I'm going to do a podcast on Sanskrit at some point soon, because it's such a powerful language, and I don't study it nearly like you. I did, a couple of years ago, I attempted to start to learn to read and write it, but I just said, nah, I can't spend all my time on this. I need to spend my studying time on Ayurveda, on more the knowledge. But I just learn a lot, not a lot compared to other people, but I learned from just reading it and coming across the words, and it's just such a beautiful language. It's in our physiology.
Yes.
It's a subtle language.
I made a series of videos that I posted on YouTube on Sanskrit pronunciation.
Oh, great.
And I also have a few simple materials for learning to read the Devanagari script.
Mm-hmm.
There are other websites also with some good materials on them.
And when you'll see on this article of the psychic healing, he's got 2 videos on it, and be careful because if you don't like watching, what do you call it? Those people who
psychic surgeons?
No. If they get cringy.
Squeamish.
Yeah, if you're squeamish, don't watch this video.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's as you said, it's full on.
It is. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Although they are basically opening up your body and exposing organs and taking stuff out, and a lot of blood, they quickly heal it like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing.
Wipe it away. Thanks for listening, guys. Pretty amazing all the experiences Conan has had. Definitely check out that article that he wrote about his experience of the Filipino psychic surgery. It is unbelievable. Next level are the YouTube videos if you can really handle them. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a review. I love reading them. And share this with your friends. Share these episodes. SMS it to them. WhatsApp to them. Share on Facebook. Appreciate it. And share the love. Until next time.